Hello everyone. I have decided to make my final project a video instead of an in-person interview. We are practicing social distancing and unfortunately we cannot figure out the technology to get the speaker right. So this is how we will be doing it. So this is Hillary. She's my friend of 15 years who was diagnosed with narcolepsy. She will be interviewing me about my learning disability and my past and present anxiety disorder, and I will be interviewing her about her narcolepsy. Hello, Hillary.
Hello.
As I am aware of, you have been diagnosed with narcolepsy. What was your biggest fear when becoming diagnosed?
I think my biggest fear would have been not being able to complete everyday tasks, such as learning subjects in school, because I would doze off or I would miss school because I fell asleep, and then not being able to just do day-to-day life things because I would either doze off or I'd have to find a place to crash or fall asleep. So it was at any given moment. So.
Okay, and how do you think this has affected you emotionally?
Emotionally, I think it is very draining because I didn't want to seek help at the beginning because I was super nervous that they would take my driver's license away from me, and then with taking my driver's license away from me, that would mean that I would lose my independence, so it was stressful, for sure. It affected you a lot, so what do you think the biggest, impact my diagnosis had on you?
I would say losing sleep a lot, being worried about where you were, scared that you've fallen asleep driving mostly. It put a lot of stress on me because I would wake up and be like, oh my goodness, where is she? I was scared that you would die on the road because you would just fall asleep. I wanted to tell your mom, but you said you'd be upset with me, so I felt like I was being pulled two different ways.
Yeah, and I can definitely see how that would be difficult for you, especially because I did not want to tell my mom. But what do you think the breaking point was for you?
My breaking point was when you left my house and I kept calling you to make sure you got home safe, but you didn't answer my calls. So I drove over to your place because I thought something had happened to you, but you were okay and you were actually sleeping. I woke you up and started to cry, and then you saw how upset I was and how it has impacted me and your other friends, and you ended up telling your mom because you could see the toll that it put on me.
Yeah, and I'm definitely glad that we did, especially that night.
Yes, of course. The next topic we are going to talk about is my cognitive learning disability. As you know, as a child, I was diagnosed with separation anxiety, OCD, and as an older adult, diagnosed with dyslexia and a learning disability that affects my thought processing.
What would you say your biggest challenge was growing up with anxiety as well as separation anxiety?
The biggest challenge for me was feeling like I couldn't control the way I was feeling. I felt alone and betrayed that my mother would leave me. I was angry and scared that my mother would never come back. It made me feel complete unease whenever she was not around. Even if it was for a short amount of time, like when she went for work for 5 hours or even to the washroom, it would put me into a tantrum. This, I believed, had an effect on me because at school it was difficult to concentrate. The teachers would have to be one-on-one with me, waving to her at the window. I wasn't able to make friends because I was so worried about when she would come back. I felt like once I grew out of it, it became better.
That sounds really awful that you had to go through that, especially as a young child. You also said that you had OCD while you were younger. How has that affected you? Sorry. How has that affected you now?
OCD has affected me because I had to find coping mechanisms and strategies to get me through each day, or even the school day. I had to wake up earlier, and my mom would have to tie my shoes like in sets of 3, or make sure my socks were in line, or I'd have to do like a squat test to make sure my clothes like were in the right spots. And I was very picky with my food and like where they couldn't be touching or anything like that. As I grew older with medication and stuff, that helped a lot.
Mm-hmm. Is there anyone that it might have affected during this time in your life?
Actually, the person I think affected the most would be my mom. Till this day, she still tells me that back then she felt defeated and frustrated. She didn't know what to do, what doctor to go to. She went to multiple ones and didn't know what was wrong with me. Also, my grandparents as well. They were very helpful to my mother. And I'm so glad that I had them.
Yeah. It's a good thing, and it's super nice that you have that constant and consistent support, especially like throughout your whole life. Could you tell me about your learning disability and how it affected you specifically?
Yes. So when I was a child, I started working with a one-on-one support once a week, and we would go over like numbers, letters, just because I was falling a bit behind than the other kids. But when I went to high school, my one-on-one support stopped. It didn't carry over for some reason, and my marks were slightly affected. And that affected me because I felt like I wasn't trying enough and that I was stupid, even though I would spend endless hours studying. It wasn't until college that I was recommended to get retested. After I found out the results that I was slightly dyslexic and had a cognitive delay, it made me feel that there was a reason why I wasn't obtaining knowledge that other people were, and it gave me a sense of relief. This information, when I found out, it affected me because I used to lash out because I would get angry that other kids would not even study and get higher grades than me, and I find that I took it out on other people, which I am sorry about now. But luckily I had a good support system and was able to talk to a professional about the ways I was feeling and overcame those issues of mine.
And I'm super glad that you got the help that you needed, especially because mental health is super important and it needs to be talked about, especially with dealing with stress. What kinds of stress would you say has affected you, and how have you managed that?
So stress has affected me in multiple ways. One of the first times I remember encountering chronic stress was my first job, as you remember, because you were there as well, at No Frills. My boss made me fear going to work every day. She would belittle me and point out silly things in front of colleagues and customers. She made me and multiple other staff leave crying, which wasn't right. And at this time I didn't realize, but it was actually a form of harassment. But because I was 16, I didn't know what to do. It's my first job, and it made me anxious about going to future career opportunities. I remember getting feelings in my stomach that were pain and not having an appetite on the days I would have to go to work, and weeks before, like, thinking about, why do I have to go to work? I don't want to. And it was a very stressful situation. Another time I have experienced stress is right now, actually. Going to school to be a nurse is a lot of time management and studying. It is stressful trying to manage studying, projects, seeing friends and family, working on weekends, and maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Sometimes I feel isolated when I'm studying alone in the basement and question if it's all worth it. These are both forms of workplace and everyday stressors, mentally and physically, they have an effect on my body. Mentally, I feel insecure, nervous, anxious, tired, and physically, I wasn't eating properly, or eating 3 meals a day, just eating as I go, and I've learned to try and fix that as I move forward with school.
Stress is such a big factor in our lives, and it really does affect our overall well-being. In what ways, what are some ways to deal with the everyday stressors that you found have been helpful for you?
I would say, number one, always reach out for support. Accepting help from your friends and family can improve your ability to handle stress. In my situation, I am thankful for my group of friends and my family who are there for me no matter what. Some of them help me and encourage me to study, while others listen to me rant and express feelings of frustration and provide comforting support. Number two, I would say finding healthy ways to manage stress. For myself, I enjoy activities such as meditation, going rollerblading, and being outside. I quite enjoy being active. And number three is to recognize how you deal with your stress and what signals to look for when you are becoming stressed. If you have any unhealthy behaviors such as drinking or drugs, I would turn to someone that you trust and get the help that you need. My signals that I am becoming stressed is I tend to sleep more to avoid conflict, or stress. I forget to eat proper meals, like I said. I slowly become less active. I get headaches and muscle tension, and I feel a lack of energy overall.
Wow, those are some great tips, and thank you for sharing those things, because that's a big thing to share. So thank you for sharing your personal experiences.
And that concludes our brief interview. Thank you for our viewers for watching, and thank you to my guest Hillary for making the interview possible.
No problem.
Once again, I would like to apologize for our lack of technology, and I hope this will be good and informative.